Are you into custom military Lego sets? Then check out Secret Squirrel Brikx. He has a massive, and I mean massive, probably competes with Shy, custom military Lego collection. From the miniature to the monstrous. This was not a paid advertisement for the Cali Brick Clique, but it is pretty awesome to watch a collection grow.
So we've been doing this for 8 months on our Balance Exchange podcast, and I'm pretty good at dancing around what I can and can't say.
All right, bring us in 5, 4, 3. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cali Brick Clique, episode number 36. And before we get into introductions, like always, remember you can find this podcast not only on YouTube, but anywhere you can find podcasts, at Apple Podcast, Spotify, yada, yada, yada. And like always, we have Ninja with the Bricks.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was
Claire.
Hi.
I think you needed to reset that one. And for our guests today, we have Papa Bear.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
I was going to say the USMC part because I was reading it, but I was like, oh, that is long. Before we get into like our regular banter, hey, Papa Bear, can you tell us who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Papa Bear, and we met through a couple different Lego online communities. I am an active duty Marine Chief Warrant Officer right now, and I have another podcast I do with a friend of mine, and you were on that once. We talked about work, right? I remember I thought that was a perfect way. You're like, oh great, we get to talk about work. But over there we talk a lot about politics, government structures, like history concepts, a lot about basically social contracts and our responsibilities to each other as people and citizens. So this is a shirt available over at our Teespring store. It says infrastructure is sexy, right? It's stuff that is there and is necessary and people don't think about a lot of times, but you really think about like this things we need. What's that?
I love it. Like, as like an architect, I think it's awesome. Like,
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And the picture on it, if you can't kind of tell because it's kind of dark, so it's like beautiful sunset with like huge power lines running along the picture in front of it too. So it's like you get the beauty of the sunset automatically, right? But thinking about what that huge power infrastructure supports and provides is kind of something we don't think about. People would look at that and think that it's a messed up looking thing, but it's actually really amazing. So.
Yeah, I definitely recommend the podcast if you want to dive into something pretty deep because they have some pretty interesting topics, that's for sure. I've listened to a few of them.
What was the name of the podcast?
It's called Balanced Exchange because the idea is that every other week we each take a topic and are kind of working it as if one of us is kind of teaching the other one about that subject. The other person is kind of less deep known to it. We don't always follow that rule. A lot of times we're both just kind of bantering and talking about it, but the basic concept is that one of us is kind of trying to help the other one understand something a little bit better. So it's an opportunity for us to exchange information, and we go every other week, so it's balanced.
And
There you go.
what's your educational background? I think it's relevant.
Me? So I've been in the Marine Corps for 21 years. So, I mean, there's that. That's an education. I have a bachelor's degree in political science. I have a master's degree in organizational management and organizational change leadership. And I have a master's certificate in organizational leadership. So,
Oh, all right. Perfect.
yeah, I guess the final piece is that there are going to be some things that I can't say anyways, no matter whether I have an opinion or don't have an opinion on it. So there are some things I'm just not allowed to say, but also anything I do say is my own personal opinion. It's not necessarily the position of anyone else in the Marine Corps, and it's definitely not the position of the Marine Corps. I'm not a public affairs officer or anything like that. So I can't say things and have them be on behalf of the Marine Corps. And unlike most of the topics we talk about, which are so obscure and so like non-military specific, tonight's topic probably will be on the nose a little. So I'm sure the Marine Corps does have a position and does have a things to say about it, but whatever I'm saying has nothing to do with those things.
Roger that. Can you let us know what you did today though in the pool?
Yeah, sure. So at lunch, we did our lunchtime workout today. And today's workout was a pool routine. So we did 1,300 meter laps. Between each 100-meter lap, we got out of the pool, sort of. So the first exercise was to do 13 gutter ups. So it's like being down in the pool and you pull yourself all the way up and then all the way out, like you're going to get out of the pool, and then you just go right back in. So you have to do 13 of those. Once you finish 13 gutter ups, go ahead and get all the way out of the pool. Do 13 air squats, and then do 13 crunches, and then swim your next 100. And you just do that 13 times. That gets you to 1,300 meters. And then we did all those exercises 13 times in honor of those that fell in Afghanistan.
I just want to let you know, I thank you for inviting me to that. I probably would have fallen out immediately jumping into that pool because it's been a very long time since I've.
You would have been fine. So I did it in camis. Enrique did it in camis. So you would have been fine as long as you were in swim gear.
Wait, you guys weren't even in swim gear?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, we don't swim in swim
gear. I was in full camouflage utility uniform.
How much weight is that then?
When it's wet, it's pretty heavy.
Sucks.
And it causes drag, and it's really hard to swim in it.
So. I was just thinking, I think I could have done that when I was like in better shape. Like, it sounds awful, but I think I could have done that. And then you said I wasn't in swim gear, and I was like, no way, ever.
Well, yeah, like in a combat scenario or in a ship, you're not naked. Well, you can't be like, you know, let me jump off this boat.
Right, and one of our key pieces of our like water safety training stuff is you jump into the water with everything on, weapons, pack, helmet, Kevlar, everything, and you start sinking, and you have to strip off all your gear and come back up and still swim in your camis, but at least you don't have all that extra weight on. So
I'm just saying, I would have drowned today, and then there wouldn't be an episode of Cali Brick Clique for this week.
I'm on my way towards being a swim instructor, and the other two who are with me are swim instructors. You've been fine.
I didn't qual that high in swim qual. Yeah. Just letting you know.
So when you were in, it was the same as when I was doing first quals, and I was WSQ. Yeah, so
it's not like beginner, expert, or whatever. It's not like that.
Now it's different. But
yeah. I didn't grow up with pools, but I did fairly well. I just couldn't go to the top tier. Anyways, beside the point, how was everyone else's past week?
I went to Equinox for like 2 hours and lifted some weights. I didn't,
Talk about working out. I didn't run at all. In fact, I drank more than I did. My calorie intake this past week is increasing heavily.
I'm eating the Whole Foods equivalent of Cheetos right now.
Oh no. Mm-hmm. Nice.
No, the week has been super fun. I'm still doing the Twitch thing. I'm building.
Oh yeah, how's that?
It's so fun. If you've ever,
I logged into one of those, by the way. I figured out my password. Yeah, and nice. I was on one of them. I wasn't paying attention, but I was on it. Okay.
It's really fun. It's like really casual. I'm enjoying it because I can do some non-Lego content.
Yeah, like
consistent Claire over on Twitch.
Yeah, yep. Yeah. Today was the first day in like a couple weeks that I didn't stream. Maybe I'll stream after this tonight. Who knows? But no, it's been really fun. So yeah, no, all good. Nothing exciting over here on my end.
I mean, you are building that set that Lego released today or re-released.
You mean the set that I
didn't they leak it? It's not.
Well, yeah, then they announced it right afterwards.
Oh, they announced. Okay, they announced it. Yeah,
they didn't leak it. Japan, Amazon accidentally put it on their site, and then then everyone leaked it, and then I guess Lego. I don't know if it was planned to be announced today, but announced it today, and now Claire is looking at her set that now is being re-released out into the world, which I'm happy about because I never got it. So
it looks like
exactly the same.
Exactly the same. If I knew that this was coming out, I wouldn't have bought it. But this kind of brings up an interesting concept that like I've been debating with like a while. I was kind of thinking about going into some Lego investing a little bit because I find it intriguing. But I think it takes away from the hobby for me. I'm not able to separate it. And I'm kind of pulling the plug now on that because what I did was when the sailboat was like first announced, I misread the thing and I thought it said like it's only available for like these 3 days, and that was for VIPs. And then it wouldn't be available. I thought it wasn't going to be available outside of those 3 days. And then the threshold was so high and it's so cool. So I was like, okay, this is really cool. I'm going to get a bunch of them. They're probably going to go for 50 or 60 at some point. It'll be a great like knock off the thing. And I bought sets that I was planning on getting. It's not like I bought sets that I wasn't going to get, but I definitely got them a little bit earlier. And I had just come off of spending a ton of money at Brick Fair. So, because it was literally the same within the same days, the same week. And I don't regret doing that, but the sailboat's still available is my point. If you go on Lego and you spend over $200, you can still get it. So I made a bad call. And it got me annoyed with Lego, even though I read the information. It's totally my fault, and it was my decision to do that. But I changed the hobby into an investment, and it was not fun for me. I've bought a couple sets here and there as being like, I'm going to buy these. I'll keep them in box a little bit longer. If they go up in value, I'll resell them. If not. That's like the most I can ever do. But doing a decision like I did before, or like I bought this set and I was like, oh, I'll just keep it. And if it goes up in value, I'll resell it when I heard about the leak. I should have just built it. I mean, I'm building it now, but like I shouldn't have even thought about it that way. Sorry to go on like a soapbox, but it's like,
no, go for it.
I'm not shitting on Lego investing. I think it's great. I just don't think I am capable of doing
you.
It. Yeah.
So you think you're gonna get high off your own supply, or you just be more irritated about that type of thing? Yeah, because I would. I don't know how Jabbo does it.
Right.
Or because he sells and he collects extensively.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to like separate it. I guess I don't know, but I guess you have to create boundaries from the very beginning. But he does go into his own stuff and his own store and take stuff out too. You just got to be very meticulous about what you put in your store at that point.
I feel like with Bricklink it'll be easier. But like if you're a reseller, you have the whole
sets
set there.
Like full sets. I think that might be like. Ooh. But I know Alex Nunez does the same thing.
A lot of people do it.
A lot of people do the same thing.
Even Ryan's able to do it. Like,
I mean, he just made like a ton of money selling all those.
It's all about balance
and Lego.
I don't know.
Yeah, like I have a pretty decent amount still new in box, but that's only because I just haven't had a chance to build them.
Well, you're busy.
But although I do get that question from time to time, because it's like there's lots of sets that are built and could easily be reboxed. And then there's all these unknown ones. Like, how much do you have just sitting there? Like, I have no idea. I'm not paying attention to that.
Yeah, if you pay attention to it, it's too stressful.
It does. Yeah, I don't want to deal with that stress. I got enough other stressors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then it was like when you take away, right? You don't want to add any kind of like stress from the Lego hobby if it's like your respite from no matter what your job is. And I can only imagine like how much it is for you. As like how a deviation from the norm it needs to be,
Yeah. Do y'all know what flow is? Have you heard of flow before?
Yeah, like flow, like when you get into flow space.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like really important for work as well. Like like so like to be productive. I miss that. Like I actually miss that from work. Anyway, keep going. Yeah, no, I don't know. You want to get into it?
We can talk about flow. Go ahead, educate us.
Yeah. So no, just saying that. So mental activity and getting into flow, if you find that you can do it in a couple different ways. And so for me, a lot of times, especially the creative side of it, like if I'm following instructions, I don't flow as often. But when I start building something from scratch, I notice I'll get into flow. So then in those moments when you really need it at work, or when you really need to enter flow to be more productive, or you want to be able to, you become better at it, right? So it's the same as most people think of kind of like your memory as a hard drive, which you can only store so much information on. And I better not try to remember that because it's not really important. I don't want to forget something else. But it's not like a hard drive. It's more like a muscle. So the more you work it out, the more you learn, the more you practice memory games and study, the better your brain gets at remembering things. So it's the same thing with flow. The more you actually practice getting in and out of flow, the better you'll be able to turn it on when you want to. Flow is this state of mind where time slows down and you become kind of hyper focused and become way, way, way better at whatever it is that you're trying to do. And most like Fortune 500 companies have a department whose entire responsibility is to evaluate how often their employees get into flow. And studies have shown that the average employee at any company or whatever is 5 times more productive when they enter into flow. So
nice.
That's why like people like shut down their email for certain amounts of time during the day. They don't look at their Outlook. They don't, you know what I mean? They don't even like the slightest external distraction. And then people can get into that state using different triggers. like music, like Lego, like even tapping your finger a couple times like a certain way, or like for me, like I will close my eyes like and just for the right amount of time and like literally like hit, because I've been doing it for so long, and that like because it was the only way that I was able to like do my job, leave in an hour where I could work out and like still move on professionally. Like if I didn't figure out how to do that, I would still be probably at, you know, like a much lower level than I ended up being. It's like, it is, I cannot recommend it enough. That and developing boundaries at work between work and home are like, I think, two of the most important things.
Yeah, there's a really good book about flow called The Rise of Superman, and that's kind of where it breaks it down really well. I would say if you're interested in reading about flow, The Rise of Superman would be the book to go for.
Well, I'm trying to figure that out right now with this new career path that I'm going through, because I definitely can't find any damn boundaries anywhere. But that's like just because I'm trying to get used to everything. So I definitely will probably bother you guys to help me with that. But
I can help.
So what are you doing now? Because I know that there was that transition after our episode.
Yeah. On your episode, I pretty much saying out. I pretty much said out that I'm done. I was done. So I work for. Can't really disclose a lot on this platform. I just work for a medical device company, and I communicate with agencies across the world. So I'll just leave it at that.
Nice.
So it's a lot of office work. So I went from like walking 12, 13, 14 miles a day to just sitting down all day. So trying to like, my body has not adjusted to that at all. So I'm getting, it's been pretty rough trying to find time to work out and watching my diet and all that type of stuff. So it's been kind of a roller coaster and pretty much everything I'm doing right now. But
you feel like restless while you're at work, like I gotta get move.
I never felt less stressed out about my work than I have been right now.
That's so good.
The fact that I'm able to work from home, I see my kids and my family. It's like, and I had the time to be able to chill with like my friends like this past week. I've never had in a very long time. So for me though, it's just like, since I'm working from home, when I'm not doing anything, I turn on that computer and I just start working. You know, just try to get the next day ahead of the day that I'm at right now. Like just being able to turn it off has been kind of difficult, but I'm starting to figure that out, especially when the kids bother me. Like this podcast is a good bring me back to reality about like, hey, we have to do this right now. Like, oh yeah, that's right. Let's do that. But aside from that, also this past week, the war is over. 20 years of a continuous fight is done. There's a lot of children on this Lego space that doesn't know anything outside of that as far as their time on this planet. That is crazy. That perspective that was like set all over the place, like does not comprehend with people at least around our age, because we had at least some time before 9/11 and then this whole thing. But as of yesterday, the war in Afghanistan is over. So does that mean all the new boot camp Marines only wear a badge and don't have national defense anymore, since war and terror is over in 2013 and now Afghanistan's over?
So there will be an official date. Like there's always like a very official message that cuts off the dates on it. I have to assume that's going to be probably soon, right?
Weird to see. All right, so if anyone knows what I'm talking about, who's not in the military, so there's a ribbon / medal that people in the military get when they come out of boot camp, and that's when they serve during enlist or serve during a time of war. And for the most part, everybody's been getting that same thing. Well, for the past 20 years, and then because we had Iraq war on terror, Iraq and Afghanistan, and now these new Marines coming out of boot camp, or Navy or sailors, whatever, are going to come out blank, and it's going to be really interesting to see walking around.
That's how I was, right? So when I went in 2000, there was nothing. I remember I'd been in for 3 years at least. So I would have had to have been in for 4 years. I had my good conduct ribbon on. We were wearing Charlies to some football game to do like a flag ceremony in San Diego or something, right? And I was still a Lance Corporal with 4 years in and my good conduct, and there were corporals there who didn't have theirs yet. And that's like the only thing you had at that point. You're like, how did I get to 4 years and not make corporal and you still did already? Just I was in a really tough to promote MLS.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, even towards the end of my tenure or my service, like in 2012, like I was walking around with a heavy stack as a sergeant, and I was looking at like, you know, a bunch of people that should be having more than what they should at their rank, and they were nothing. And I was just like, And then as the years progressed, I kept seeing that, like finding Marines that don't deploy anymore, or is starting to become more of a thing. Because I was in during a time when everybody deployed. Like, hey, I'm here for like 2 months. Oh, I gotta go, or 3 months. I gotta go. Went back. So like it was just a common thing, and burnout was a serious thing for a lot of the people that were in during our time, and I can kind of see that now. But with that being said, the war is over. Anyone who's listening who's a veteran, thank you for your service. Appreciate
100%.
every single one of you for signing up during this period of time when there is a probability that you will be having to make that decision. So and thank you again, Daniel, for continuing to fulfill that service for, I guess, you said 20 years already, so I don't know. You should be retired, dude. Get that pension.
Yeah, I actually had my retirement certificate right over there. I was approved to retire last year, and then took a promotion to come here to run the schoolhouse to try to kind of change the way the Marine Corps looks at training and education for the technical communications MLSs, because we still run it like it's a basic schoolhouse where you're just supposed to do something that's very simple. So I picture the schoolhouse was developed at a time when the communications capabilities of the military in the 1950s or something was like, take this reel of cable, run it from here to there, connect these 2 phones that run on batteries, and just talk on them, right? You don't have to do anything with them. You just talk on them because it goes from here to there. Yeah. Or it's like the one HF radio set that everybody had, and that's it.
Yeah, that was me. That was my year.
But even then, there was probably 4 or 5 different radios. They had lots of different capabilities. You were probably running frequency hopping. You were doing these other things that are complicated, especially if we want them to actually understand what they're doing. So yeah, trying to change the mindset. I decided I'd give it a shot and see if I can do something in the last 3 years here. So it may end up being more. What's that?
At least you have a job when you get out.
If I want one.
If you want one, yeah, now I can just spend all that on Lego. So Lego did come out, speaking of education, Lego did come out with let's see if I can put it in here. There we go. Can everyone see that? With this statement that they're going to be donating a ton of money towards children in Afghanistan and in Haiti. I can't see. I should have worn my glasses. Well, this was released like 6 days ago. Are you guys familiar somewhat with what's going on and what they're doing?
I saw the announcement for Haiti, but I didn't see anything about Afghanistan.
I didn't see the Haiti one. I saw the Afghanistan one.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to talk about the Afghanistan one in a second. But for those of you who are not paying attention, we're not going to read through this whole thing. You could definitely find it on the Lego website. Or if you just type in like Lego donates UNICEF, Afghanistan, Haiti, it'll pop up at the top search level. So here, Lego's donating about, where is it? 15 million, almost $16 million towards vulnerable children in Haiti and Afghanistan, with partners including UNICEF, the UN Refugee Agency, and that's pretty much it. And education, I cannot wait. I've never heard of that. So when I looked at the UNICEF website and their mission in Afghanistan, I see that a lot of it's going to go to things where they are totally needed right now. I know there's a drought going on in Afghanistan. There's, problems with running water, and that just needs to happen. So I see that money going in that direction if Lego's money will go that way. But the focus on women and children, I don't know if it will reach that way, because we already know the stance of what Taliban thinks on education of women. So do you think that this money is going to go to waste going to Afghanistan? Haiti, I think it's going to work, but I don't know. Knowing, like, Daniel, you and I have served in Afghanistan. You've more than I have interacted with their people. You know who the enemy was and what they're capable of. Do you think that this is something that the money will go to the means?
So if it stays with UNICEF, and they are the ones in control of the projects and what it is that they do, then there's one of two things kind of can happen, right? So either it puts people from UNICEF who are working those projects potentially in danger, and as long as they're willing to understand that that's the reality of things, then they'd probably be fine. If they don't control the money, but instead just hand it over to people who are going to work on projects that are local, it might not go where they want it to go. Two things, and something I talked about today too, was like, you have to understand that the major cities of Kandahar and Kabul, where like government structures kind of exist within Afghanistan, and you know the historical significance of the fact that there's two cities, one's kind of southern and one's northern, that are like the historical capitals of Afghanistan. So their cities originally established by Alexander. That's how long ago they were put there. He had his like summer capital further north and then winter capital further south, so it would be a little warmer. So those two are pretty decent metropolitan areas. Like they're pretty good sized towns. But outside of the like sphere of influence of that city where the governments are, it's very rural. Like most of the small towns manage their small surrounding areas and don't interact with like the central government in any really meaningful way. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things like, yes, that the government's positions, and by the government I mean Taliban, who, you know, their positions on things aren't necessarily in line with, you know, most of what Western society would agree with. But they also, their sphere of influence only goes so far. Something to keep in mind.
Oh, okay. So there is hope.
Well, I mean, like,
at the end of that.
Or I mean, like, I think, right. The situation has obviously, like, do we still want to keep this thing on the screen, by the way?
Oh no, we can take it down. My bad.
So obviously, like, the situation has like shifted dramatically there. But how do I say this, like, delicately? There's more than one, you know, vehicle for change, or there are people there that are still trying to like you know, move more Western ideologies forward that, you know, aren't the US military, or, you know what I mean? There are other organizations that are there. And what I'm curious about is that, like, would UNICEF be like handing that off to those organizations, or would they be doing it themselves? Like, what is their internal like infrastructure to do that? Do you know what I mean? Like, how does that get played out? Because I know that there are also like a lot of politics when it comes to UNICEF. And I know that from like the built world, you know, like what is a historic site and things like that, and just that process. Because like UNICEF has their hands in like a lot of different aspects of, you know, you could call them different humanitarian efforts, you know, and preservation efforts. So my point is, sorry, I think it would behoove us to educate ourselves a little bit more as to like what the situation is there. And like, because I do know that there are like groups of nonprofits that are like very geared towards like women's health, and that work on a global level by like, you know, teaching women how to have basic hygiene, so it leads to like better women's reproductive health and things like that. And I'm curious if like maybe that would be part of it, you know what I mean? Because I think that's part of the mission under UNICEF's goal with Afghanistan is women's health. I think it says it right here. Yeah, right. Because it's like it's almost there's a genocide of sorts that's happening with that whole aspect, like on a global level. And so I would be curious if that was what I'm curious, like also is like, how are they identifying children and like helping children only? Like, wouldn't helping, like, how are you like, we're gonna like Lego as a group, it's like we're gonna take this money and we're gonna like be like, we want kids to benefit from this money, but like how do you do that exactly? How do you create like organizations where like in the US it would be like, oh, you create like an after school center where kids can go. It's like a little bit more straightforward, right? Or I mean, and it doesn't even work here all the time, right? And so you're like, you know, I'm going to create this school, this like charter school that is going to educate kids in like maybe a different way, where other kids, you know, what kids don't. There's like so many. What are those vessels? What are those tools in? I don't know enough about it. Is my whole point is I don't know what I'm talking about. To add to that, Lego also donated 50 Danish kronos to the Red Cross in Denmark to help Afghanistan as well. So I know the Red Cross is also still there. That's like that's more of like on an immediate level, right?
Also,
yeah.
That's
So that's
like,
one.
yeah.
UNICEF is only like less than a quarter of what they donated to.
Yeah, it is actually.
So a big
Yeah, we got-
conversation that happens here in the Bay Area as well is the responsibility that corporations have to benefit, to give back to society and give back to the community, right? And there's different forms of doing that. And especially, I mean, that's talked about everywhere, but in the Bay where there's these like global like we have, Apple, Facebook, these companies that have so much money, they could literally change the world. And so a lot of people give them a lot of slack for not doing so, or not doing it within their maximum capacity. You know what I mean? And so I don't necessarily agree with all the slack that they get given, but is it the responsibility of the corporation to, like, is it Lego's responsibility to give this? Like, did they have to do this? Is it out of their goodwill? Are they doing it from a branding perspective? Because it's not particularly public knowledge. They put it on their Instagram, yeah, but like, are people going to go buy more Lego because of this? I don't know. Like, what do you guys think?
I mean, Lego, like you just said, they didn't brand it, or they didn't publicize it. Like, hey, look what I did. They just put a post up, and if you saw, you saw, and if you didn't, you didn't. Lego does do a lot of that. They do promote some of it, but I feel like it's a little bit of all of that.
Yeah.
Like they do it for the sake of what they believe in, their core values, and then they also do it because it solidifies to the public of what their mission is, which is, every child with a great blah 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 blah.
Yeah, but it's also like they don't want to do like religious sets, right? So if you think about it, like Denmark is very serious about the separation of church and state, like immensely, so much more than we are in the US. And it works there because the size of the country and a multitude of reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Denmark is considered to be one of the best places in the world to live for a bunch of different reasons.
And education.
Yeah, it's great. They do a lot of things right. We also do a lot of things right. It's like there's a lot of, you could critique everybody in a different way, but it makes sense for them to intentionally support more Western ideologies in an environment like Afghanistan. It seems like, okay, they pick an area of the world where that is like at most, it's struggling most from that. And what we deem as struggling,
mm-hmm.
and where people are suffering the most. I think it makes sense. I think it gives validity to their brand value, like their.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it would be bad if they didn't do anything.
They quite literally put their money where their mouth is.
Mm-hmm. But also says on UNICEF, which I was going to bring up with that, is that a lot of the money is also going to go to like all the displaced children that are everywhere.
But how does that go to them? Like, obviously, like
it's going to go like, so it says right here that they're going to be, placed in like kind of like housing facilities that will, I guess like daycare type of things.
Building the housing facilities like that. I don't understand how this stuff works.
It looks like a bunch of kids running around in the tent right now. That's what it looks like. But it does make sense. I mean, you look at what happened in Kabul like this past 2 weeks, and you saw a bunch of families rush to the city. Now a lot of those people are pretty much just stuck. It's going to be hard for them to get back or figure out what to do at that point. So you're going to have a lot of people either staying in the city, or you have a lot of people homeless.
I guess I just don't understand how these things work without like the Army Corps of Engineers. Like, I just like, who builds this stuff? Like, who's going in there and just like, if
it's Army Corps of Engineers, then it's our tax money.
Yeah, but I know, but like, how does it? I don't get it. I
think
they're
not going to obviously do it themselves, but if they put that money towards an organization that could go to refugee camps and build better facilities or something, Habitat for Humanity is the first one that comes to mind.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there are others that are outside the United States that could do something like that, because there's a lot of refugees in all of the surrounding countries, Pakistan, and then a lot made it here too. So. And
well, apparently it's technically still not over, right? There's still a lot of people. I mean, last week, I've been kind of missing these past couple of days on people's streams and stuff like that, just because I've been kind of dealing with the end of the war, I guess you would say, and it wasn't a good one. My unit was focusing a lot on trying to get our interpreter that served with us in Afghanistan and his family out of Kabul. We were successful with our interpreter and his immediate family, but not so much extended family, like his brothers, parents, all that kind of stuff. So we're still trying to figure that part out, but I don't think we're going to get anywhere with that. It was kind of too late. We weren't going to be able to figure it out in 3 days. So there are still a lot of people who still need to get over here and or try to escape. So only time will tell what's going to happen with that country going forward. Whether you believe we should be there or not, it's really irrelevant at this point because it's in the past. Now it's just we are going to have a country now that's now at peace, technically, but like by definition, right? Because I don't think we're ever really at peace.
Right.
For me, though, I was struggling a lot. Just, I was lost trying to figure out purpose. Like a lot of things that I'm dealing with mentally have to deal with situations where I have no control over, where I feel like I have failed in the scenario that I've been placed. And, I've been dealing with that with the proper ways that you can, whether it be group, talking about it, medication, psychiatry, blah, 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 blah. And I had it all under control until this happened. And then the whole feeling came swarming back. But I wasn't also alone in this feeling. A lot of people were in the same boat who have served over there. So I was spending a lot of my time with like experienced individuals. And my unit was very, very good. At least my last unit was very good at making sure everybody was still being checked on and all that kind of stuff. So that's one thing I do miss about the Marine Corps. And that's the one thing that, LEGO does help us with as veterans who have issues. But what I want to know, though, is that how, like, unlike me, where I am alone and have to deal with this kind of stuff, Daniel is currently serving and has a lot of Marines to look after. And do you see this type of, like, how is this resonating with a lot of the Marines that have served over there, if you know any that are still in?
So for a lot, there's that question you kind of talked about, and it's kind of the same question for everybody. Is like, was that worth it? Like, did I do anything to see it flip back over so quickly? Ideally, what we're going to do is just talk through what each person's kind of feeling and what their thoughts are first on it, so that way we understand where we're at before we talk about how to go forward. It's always kind of an important thing. You can't really go anywhere unless you know where you are. We have to have some group conversations like, hey, look, everybody needs to understand this, like all together, all in one huge group, that, if you need help and you need to talk through it, you can come to any of us, or if you don't feel comfortable talking to any of us, obviously you talk to the chaplain, who's really, really good at this kind of stuff. Mostly people are just concerned with, like, did it mean anything to go over there and put 13 months of my life into this small town and helping them understand how to, like, keep themselves safe, keep their neighborhood and their community protected. It's kind of sidebar. Like, I trained motorcycle couriers for 4 months, right? So I was over there training with Afghans and trained Afghan Army guys how to ride motorcycles so that they could deliver messages, right?
Which sounds like a great job, by the way.
Right.
When you think about
it was super fun. Like, definitely one of the best times while deployed. But so then to wonder, so to me, like, I wonder, I literally trained a couple hundred of those guys to ride motorcycles in order to help their commands communicate, even in the event that they didn't have radio systems working. And then you see how fast everything dropped, flipped back over. It's like, where were those guys I trained how to ride motorcycles? What were they doing? And you just wonder, like, was any of the time we spent teaching them and training them worth it? And that's where I kind of go back to in my head, and I've talked through quite a few about it, where you have to keep in mind this complete separation of the rural areas where most of us were training folks on how to deal with their own local area and how to really be responsible for their own smaller territories compared to the larger federal stuff. So while there might be a central government in place probably part of it, knowing the amount of control they're going to be able to exert if they say that they took over was probably part of their decision-making process, to say it's really not worth fighting back against it to let them have these two cities when we still would really technically, as a community, individually still control our own destinies in our own areas. So
yeah,
I have to consider that as part of what their decision-making process was too.
No, I mean, I totally get that. For those of you that don't know, Afghanistan's it's a tribal area. A lot of things done locally. They literally don't give a crap about what's going on across the nation. I mean, there's a few, and right now there's one holdout, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, I have confidence that they'll be able to hold that last province, but it's good to know that the Marines that are currently in are still able to, like, you guys still look out for each other immediately for that type of stuff. And the communication about this has actually been astounding, like, really good. I mean, like, the commandant threw out something. I mean, really don't care what he had to say. But the commandant threw something out there. But immediately right after the commandant like wrote that letter, it was just a constant phone call, left and right, from my buddies who are currently in, who are, knows that knew I deployed, even though they didn't. Those that deployed with me, just, talking about all this kind of stuff. So that's pretty much where all my time went. It's been pretty healthy. I even had my first sergeant hit me up just like to check me. So it was good to be checked by a Marine again. Yeah. Just to get some reality back in my shoulders and to acknowledge that, I did good. I didn't do anything bad. Because even though I tell myself all that all the time that I did bad, I actually did some good. But my hearts really go out to the 3,000 troops that we sent. 3,006. Is it 6,000 Marines and soldiers that lifted everybody out of Kabul?
Oh, like I don't know what the secondary flow was.
Those ones over there, I think, probably had one of the hardest jobs that all of us combined could have done. Because like they were literally saying who lives and who dies, and a lot of it was children. And I don't know if I'll be able to do that type of stuff.
Did you see the photo that like people are saying will become like the next super iconic Marine Corps photo kind of thing? Have you seen that one?
Which one?
So it's there's a lady like lifting her child up on the wall.
Oh yeah.
And the Marine is reaching down, like pulling the kid up and over so that they can take them with them or whatever, like giving away their child to get them out of there.
Yeah, yeah, that one's a pretty iconic. Well, there's a few one. I think that one's going to be it for sure. That makes sense. I feel bad for that chaplain who's consistently talking to all these soldiers and Marines who are losing it over there about, because you think about it, you're a father or you're a mother, and then you have these children who have traveled hundreds and hundreds of miles to get to where you are, and it's hot, and they're literally like they're just crying just to get on a plane like that, and you're saying no because they don't have the proper paperwork. It's like it's really, really heartbreaking, and I really, really feel for those who were over there and did that job. So I just wanted to put that out there. So if you're I know one person that's over there. You made it back, but sorry, this is a very downer episode. I mean, technically I also showed you because you are you're an officer and you're an older Marine, and if I were to go down this way, you would help me lift me out of it because you have the capabilities of doing so. And the training in doing so. But Lego in itself has done a lot for me and has done a lot for a lot of veterans. It's an activity, it's a hobby that's pretty straightforward. You put a brick on top of a brick. The outcome of it is whatever it is, but it's you come here literally, as Claire says it, to escape. And it does do that every time I build. And that's one thing why I leave a lot of my Lego sets off of videos, because I need that. And why I immerse myself into this hobby, because I seriously needed it.
Therapeutic.
Yeah, very therapeutic. It's the closest thing to me is riding my motorcycle, but unfortunately nowadays with children and career paths, I don't get to do that every day anymore. So the Lego literally took over my life. That's the reason why my wife accepts it.
I do think that there are a lot of hobbies that could provide the same psychological relief, but the barrier to entry with Lego is low.
Very.
And you don't need to learn a new skill.
Mm-mm.
Most people can pick it up relatively quickly if you're able-bodied. And I think it's not like, learning to paint or learning to draw. A lot of people feel like they're not good at it or blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And then I just think that sometimes being spoon-fed information with instructions is great. And I can only imagine the trauma and the quite literal PTSD, how it's the therapeutic aspects of something like Lego could be to something like that.
Yeah, so a big part of what I think of too is that not just the final build, right? So once you have done something and you feel that sense of accomplishment, even though it might be something small, like, hey, I completed this thing. Yeah. There's a huge boost there, but every single piece, right, as you complete a small task, is a little bit of dopamine, right? So it's just that little bit of I feel better, a little bit of I feel better, a little bit of I feel better. It eventually kind of overcomes the negative chemicals and thoughts and things they go on to, and helps you get out of that funk, even if it's not to a perfect place, but it's somewhere better than you were maybe 15 minutes ago or an hour ago, whatever it was. Lets you then move yourself forward.
Deters your focus.
You guys might not be able to talk about it or whatever, but how long do you think this current situation is gonna play out? Is there any way to U.S. or just like, everything in,
Talking
governments.
about Afghanistan?
Yeah, like governments change constantly, obviously, you know what I mean? And like things are constantly shifting and moving. And even over the last, 20 years there, it's been changing like incredibly dramatically.
Okay, well, yeah, that's okay. So right now, half the population is under the age of 18. Kids, they're young. A lot of the grown folk have passed. And the struggle with that right now is to be able to feed and provide for them. That's one of the why UNICEF is really focusing on that, because who's going to take care of them if the adults aren't around? A lot of things in societies change when generations flip. So
Exactly.
there is hope that something might happen over there. And the Taliban's who are taking over, the Taliban who took over Afghanistan were children when Daniel and I were there. A lot of them were fighters.
Yeah.
So being led by obviously more experienced people goes without saying. So half of this is going to be they don't know no better, and the other part is the people who were under the influence of the West, like in Kabul and going to university, all that kind of stuff, who still remain there and know way better. So this is going to be a very interesting type of dynamic flip that they might see in the years coming, if that makes sense. The only problem is just the way the Taliban functions and the way their society runs. Like I said, it's on the outskirts, it's all tribal, and they don't give a crap what happens inside.
Right, and it's like inherently volatile, obviously. Do you know what I mean? And so that's the thing is, like I just like even like its foundation is volatile. So
well, there's still one province left that's not under Taliban control that not even the Russians were able to conquer, nor the Taliban. And that's where correct me if I'm wrong, the remaining of the Afghan commandos ended up going to. And then so with that, and I forgot the dude's name that's very vocal about the Taliban. That's where he's pretty much held up. So there is hope. As far as what type of hope and who provides it, that time will tell, and what the international government's kind of waiting on. With that being said, it is what it is. Do you find Marines like playing with Lego in your command? Or are you the only one, Daniel?
Oh, no, there's a couple others, right? So, so for one, you've seen pictures of my office, right?
No.
No? Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to show you all a picture later. I have it's an L-shaped desk with an upper set of like cabinets. On top of that set of cabinets is all of the big like NASA-style spaceship stuff, because I do a lot with space operations too. I have the lunar lander, Saturn V, and Space Shuttle and International Space Station all on display on top of the desk, right? And then my main bookshelf, like as soon as you come in, is all smaller Lego sets, mostly Star Wars stuff. And then all of the Star Wars buildable figures are like up all over the place. So nobody walks in my office and doesn't know that I'm totally into Lego.
Totally geeking out on Lego.
Yeah.
I love it if Marines would see that. Dude,
and then
so are others.
Representing.
Yeah. So that generally will start some conversations. And the last 2 units I've been at too, it's been enough of an influence for me bringing all my stuff in to have someone else who's interested be like, well, shit, I'm gonna bring someone put it on my desk too. So then usually 1 or 2 will start bringing theirs in just to kind of show off on their desk. There's one that I worked with in Okinawa who's now in like Monterey at school and still sends me like a notification every once in a while when he sees a new set come out that he knows the 2 of us are going to be like, ooh, this is really nice. Like when the bonsai tree came out and we're both spent a lot of time in Japan, he's like, oh my God, look at this thing. Have you seen this? I was like, hell yeah. Can't wait. And then Space Shuttle, when the Space Shuttle came out, he sent me that. And then there's one other guy worked in that same office. He started bringing his stuff in. He had like the Quickie Mart and he had the Simpsons house and stuff on his desk. I knew he was super big into all of the Marvel stuff. So his whole goal was to collect like all of the Marvel sets. One of the ones he wanted was the helicarrier, because it's big and hard to get right. And I saw one for sale super cheap one time and sent it to him. So I still use that to keep in touch with people too.
That's crazy.
See, that's awesome because you like, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like you're a Marine, so you're tied with that, but then you also have the Lego too. So
yeah, makes it easy.
That's funny to see. And like, I want to see that. Like, I want to see Marines geek out over Lego at work.
Yeah, I'll see if I can.
Talking about Lego in the field when you're haven't showered in a couple of days, training. You know what I mean? Like, I want to
see that new set coming out.
Like, dude, man, I haven't like showered in like 3 days and MREs suck. Hey, though, but did you hear about that shuttle though? Like that's the kind of conversation I want to get into.
So like I've done, not just talk about it, I've taken stuff.
Oh, no. What, you're taking Lego sets to the field?
Yeah. So do you know Doc Sampson? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he sent me the little like the Ninjago temple.
Oh, the red temple.
Yeah. So he did this red temple challenge thing for a while. Do you remember that?
That was a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he sent it out, and everybody was supposed to try to build it as fast as they could. And like, I had this idea for me and Addison to make this really fun video of her like trying it at first, and it taking her a long time, and then us having this stupid training montage, like of her like getting faster at it, and then beating everybody's times, right? Be like a stupid training montage, like with the her climbing stairs and everything at the same time.
Nice.
But then I had this idea for one of the clips to be her practicing with it at all the places we went. We travel all the time when we were in Japan. So we would go to Korea, we'd go to Bali, we were in Hong Kong. Like, so let's get her building it at all of these places as well while we're traveling around. So then I was like, I started taking it with me to the field. And so I'm already used to now taking this small little set and just getting faster and faster doing it. So I just would always have it with me. So anywhere we went, be in the field, I'd be in Guam, setting up SATCOM stuff and waiting for someone to show up and be like,
there we go. Dang. So you took part in the first Red Temple Challenge?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So instead of tearing down OEs or breaking down a M4 as fast as you can, you're breaking
Red
down a
Temple.
Lego set. Why couldn't I be under your command? I was calm.
You just got to take a break, right? Set up the OE and then come build the Lego. Yeah.
Yeah.
Prioritize.
Yeah,
exactly.
Dude, that would have been freaking funny if I were to bring a Lego set to the field. How dirty that would be.
Yeah. But you just wash it off with water.
See? That easy. Wipe it down.
But it had to be something small. Have you ever seen anything bigger than that?
I mean, no one else is bringing stuff, so no.
It can fit in your pack.
Yeah, I couldn't see bringing anything too big. It's just it takes too much space. So like, it's so crazy thinking back too. Like I remember going to Thailand on like one of my first like calm exercises in 2006, right? I took like half of my sea bag was filled with books, like actual books, right? I took them with me so that I could read for the month that I was going to be there because I read all the time. But then by the second time I went, my wife had gotten me like a super old version of an e-reader, like pre-Kindle, like I had to hook it up to a phone jack. It would dial up on the internet, right? On its own, download books. And so I could just take this one thing. And then now, like, I listen to audiobooks only or take a Kindle with me. You don't even have to worry about any of that stuff anymore. It's like I could replace that amount of space and weight that I was taking with Lego.
That's true. Yeah. See that.
Wait, so when did you get into Lego?
So I was as a kid a lot, right? Obviously, most of us were probably. And I have the 2013 dropship or the what's it called? The gunship. And that same year, Millennium Falcon, the 2013 like Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
And so those were ones I bought with Logan though when he was maybe 11 or 12. So for a year there or two, he was into Lego. So then I was just building them with him, right? But I think I was still so like busy with work and everything else that I didn't really realize how much fun I had or how much I enjoyed it. So then I had like a second dark age when he got out of Lego, didn't really care anymore until Addison started being into Lego. And then it became something I was interested in.
So your children was that influence. Oh, the innocence.
Twice.
Yeah, so I had two dark ages. I was like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, but it's
this
like I think a lot of people, at least for me, like I was like quelling the urge to get super into it. I was like, oh, I'll do it with kids later. I'll do it with kids later. I'll do it with kids later. And I was like, I remember being like, if I have a kid tomorrow, literally tomorrow, it's going to take quite a few years for them to get old enough to do like proper big builds.
You're going to buy them all a Duplo already.
Yeah. Like why? No, they don't get Duplo. Do you know how expensive Duplo is?
Didn't you buy
You only need one set. You only need to get them one set.
I have Duplo already.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Give them
But
the big bag.
to be fair, though, when you buy Duplo, you don't need more than a bid, and that you call it a day.
No, I know. I have my original bin from when I was 2.
Are you going to give your children the original expensive Duplo bin now because it's vintage?
Like,
Vintage.
it's like
Jabber
trash, you know?
would turn a fit. I'm just
It's
kidding.
expensive plastic chew toys anyways. It's just going to all go in the mouth. That's all that happens. Kids that age
Oh
anyways.
man.
Like, you know how much that.
Do not buy.
Goes for on
Jabber,
Bricklink?
do not buy vintage Duplo for your children. I made that mistake. I only got it for Ezra because he wanted it. It was a $20 set. Probably $10 set at the time. But I bought it for $50.
Some of those
Probably about that
Duplo
much,
figs.
I had 2 of those Duplo figs, but it also had an elephant. So I think that's pretty much why.
Oh, and the animal. Yeah.
Yeah, the animals.
Animals.
I mean, they're cool. The Duplo sets are dope. I mean, they
They're
come
really
really
cool.
useful when you build large mocks, especially behind the
Fiddler
mountains
bricks,
behind
yeah.
you can't even see it. Like just as things to rise stuff. I mean, they still are compatible with all the Lego bricks, so why not? Unless it's Technic. That doesn't
It blew my mind when I figured that out.
What the
Oh,
Lego
they
is
put
compatible?
Duplo brick with
Yeah.
Lego?
Yeah, that they're compatible. I was like, what?
I've still never done it myself. I've seen it in videos of people building huge mocks. I've still never put the two together for any reason. So
I think
Try
I
one.
see people who take like one of the printed bricks, you know what I mean? That's like really cool. And then they'll build an entire mock around it out of like,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. And it's really cool. Like a signage or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a fun exercise or a fun contest to do.
A lot of people do it. There's
In the
people that
next mockumentary.
that's their specialties are doing that. Yeah, I use it on Instagram and stuff. Like Sam's actually has done it a couple times.
Ooh, I did not know
Right,
about
the
it.
Duplo bin.
That's something new.
It's cool.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna have another drink.
he builds some pretty good mocks, as you know.
I'm still waiting on some things to come in before I start my large one. So there he is.
It's just right there.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Keep them on deck.
So with what's going on in the world, it's been a pretty, like I said, I'm gonna start closing out. It has been a pretty rough one for at least some of us. I did walk around like feeling like, am I the only one feeling this? Like, why am I the only one down walking around this neighborhood or like the mall or whatever? But I've come to finally like make peace with it. So I'm in a better place than I was last week and the weeks before. There's really nothing I can do, and you know what? I'm gonna just put the arrogant Marine in front of me right now, which is pretty much it. When we were there, we pretty much kicked ass. And we left, whatever. so I just wanted to put that out there. I'm like, I did. My unit did the mission. We did very well at what we did, and everyone who followed did the same. And it was whatever happened was outside of our hands, and it wasn't a military debacle. We didn't do anything.
It's not your fault.
It's not. So, yeah.
I was talking about it with someone. I can't remember if I mentioned it in our podcast from Friday about Afghanistan too. Do you remember Heartbreak Ridge? You watched the movie Heartbreak Ridge? You know Heartbreak Ridge? Yeah. So remember him, like Gunny Highway and the Sergeant Major are in the bar talking about what the current scorecard is for the Marine Corps. Do you remember them talking about that scene?
Yeah. Quite a while ago, but yes, I remember that.
Yeah, so they're like Vietnam Marines, basically. The movie includes them going to Grenada, so it tells you the time frame. It's like in the early 80s. The idea was they talk about that the Marine Corps basically is 0-1-1 as far as like their scorecard. No wins, one loss in Vietnam, and then a tie in Korea, basically, right? Like, we didn't win any other ones we've been fighting since World War II. You kind of put this one on your scorecard too. It's like, what does this end up with? Is it a draw? Is it a loss?
To be fair, though, in any of those wars, though, is it the Marines really losing, or are you going off the country?
So the way they talk about it too is the Marine Corps always won all its battles, but then the nation kind of loses the war for us.
There you go.
It's like you don't see us losing many battles. It's just
no, we lose when the army gives up. That's pretty much what happens. We lose when the army gives up. It happens. It happened in World War II. That's the only reason why we surrendered. Because the army surrendered in Asia. Yeah. We were still fighting. And then they're like, oh, we give up. Like, oh, I guess we give up now.
When you were in, did you ever hear stories about Somalia from anybody? Like fighting in Moog?
I didn't have any Marines that fought in Somalia.
There's this interesting story because I can't remember what year you said you came in. Did you have black boots?
No. I was one of the first with the Digimarines.
Okay.
Out of boot.
So back then, Marines still had black boots, like when they fought in Somalia, but the Army already had tan-colored, like desert boots. Whenever a Marine Corps unit would go out on patrol through Mogadishu or whatever, they wouldn't really get attacked. ever, because the boat, like the Somalis would look and see and be like, oh, those are black boot soldiers trooping around. Like, don't mess with those guys; those will jack you up. And as soon as someone comes out with the brown boots on, that's who they would attack. Because they would attack the army all the time. Because they knew they could actually get a decent, do a good job fighting. They couldn't win us.
Yeah, sorry guys. This is how Marines talk. We like to pretty much talk trash about everybody else.
Sorry.
But to prevent it from going further than that, because Dan and I can go into this rabbit hole for days, I'm gonna just kill it right here. Does anyone have does anyone have anything they want to bring up before we kill the episode? Or we roll that?
I mean, salute to you guys and all the Marines and all the military out there for doing what you guys do.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's all I want to say.
I wish, we could have been there for you, Shy, obviously this week, but I'm glad that you have people in your life to reach out to, and that community still exists.
You were there. Giving me space was enough. It's fine. I don't have to get bombarded.
And I'm going to tell Shy the opposite of what he just said. Is he needs to know he needs to call my ass next time too. Like, then we can talk about both things. You just need to decompress. We talk about Lego. You just want to talk about shit you're going through. That works too. But
that does.
Don't forget that.
Yeah.
I know you got your unit, but I got you back too.
I appreciate that, brother. All right. With that being said, thank you all for listening in. You guys have a wonderful evening. We're rolling that music.
Be easy.
Bye.
Thanks, dude. We had to talk about.
Wait, talk about what? Like this, or just
this?
This is another, one of those things I just need to say out loud.
Hey.